Let me be straight with you right now. The Las Vegas Raiders just made a move that nobody saw coming, and the name attached to this story is way bigger than anything you've been hearing about all week. This isn't a rumor. This isn't speculation. This is confirmed, and the real reason behind this decision is something the mainstream media is completely sleeping on. Stick with me until the end, because this story has layers that will genuinely blow your mind. Let's start where everything begins for this Raiders defense, Max Crosby. At the close of last season, the Raiders front office made one of the toughest calls they've had in years. Number 98 was shut down. The diagnosis: a serious meniscus tear in his left knee. But here's the part that tells you everything you need to know about this man's character. Crosby had been playing through that injury for weeks before anyone even forced the conversation. Weeks. Through NFL-level contact, through pass rush representatives, through everything. That's not just toughness. That's insane, borderline scary dedication to his team. During the preseason, Crosby finally went under the knife and got the surgery done properly. But just when you thought the drama was over, things got even messier. That very same knee became the centerpiece of what would have been one of the biggest trades of the entire offseason. The Baltimore Ravens were ready to pull the trigger on a blockbuster deal, and then Crosby failed his physical. The deal collapsed instantly. Just like that, the trade was dead, and Max Crosby stayed in Las Vegas for the start of the 2026 season. Now think about that for a second. Is it a blessing in disguise, or did the Raiders just dodge a bullet they didn't even know was coming? With minicamp right around the corner, new head coach Clint Kubiak finally broke his silence on May 20th and gave reporters a real, honest update on Crosby's recovery. No fluff. No corporate non-answers. Just straight talk. Kubiak confirmed that the entire franchise's number one priority is getting Max Crosby to 100% before training camp begins. He made it crystal clear, this isn't about rushing the guy back for optics. This is about protecting their most important defensive asset and making sure he comes back at full power. But here's the part that actually gave fans chills. Kubiak told reporters that even while rehabbing, Crosby is the first person walking through the doors of that training facility every single morning. Every single morning. He's not checked out. He's not feeling sorry for himself. He is locked in on his recovery like it's his entire identity. The coach called him the undisputed leader of this team and said his presence alone completely changes the energy in practice. Even when he isn't running a single rep, Kubiak also hinted that given Crosby's genetics and his obsessive work ethic, he wouldn't be shocked at all if the big man comes back ahead of the medical schedule. And honestly, based on everything we know about Max Crosby, does that surprise anyone? But wait until you hear the cold hard numbers that explain exactly why this Raiders team simply cannot function at its best without him on that field. Last season, Max Crosby played 935 defensive snaps. Let that sink in. 935 snaps, on a bad knee, for a team that was fighting through a brutal year. He finished with an overall rating of 79. 7 on Pro Football Focus, which is genuinely impressive when you consider he was doing it while managing a serious injury. The production was real too. 53 total pressures, 10 sacks, 31 quarterback hurries, 12 quarterback hits. And just to make sure opposing offenses couldn't breathe anywhere on the field, he added 46 individual tackles and a forced fumble against the run game. That is a complete, dominant defensive performance from a guy who was literally hurt the entire time. Kubiak made one thing absolutely clear. He is not going to push Crosby to get on the field before he is genuinely ready. The coaching staff understands that in a rebuild year, having Crosby lead by example in practice and set the standard for the rookies around him is already enormously valuable. In fact, Kubiak laughed and said the bigger problem is actually keeping Crosby away from the practice field. Because the man is so competitive, he keeps trying to sneak into full-team drills before the medical staff gives him clearance. That's your franchise defender right there. And the Raiders are smart enough to protect him. Now, the defense is getting sorted, but the offense, that's a completely different and far more urgent conversation. A young wide receiver is reportedly available for almost nothing, but there's a massive domino that has to fall first. Let's talk about it. Here's where things get really interesting. The Las Vegas Raiders offense is in desperate need of weapons around rookie quarterback Fernando Mendoza. The front office knows it. The fans know it. And apparently, the market has an answer, if everything lines up correctly. NFL insider Albert Bree reported that the New England Patriots are actively shopping wide receiver Kayshon Boutte and are willing to move him for as low as a 5th or 6th round draft pick. For a 24-year-old receiver who just came off a 2025 season where he caught 33 passes for 551 yards and scored 6 touchdowns. That is highway robbery pricing. Boutte was a 6th-round pick back in 2023, and he is entering the final year of his contract, which is exactly why New England wants to move him now before they lose him for nothing. Adding to the urgency, the Patriots just handed former Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs a massive 4-year deal worth up to $80 million. With that kind of money committed to Doubs, Boutte's role in New England has shrunk dramatically. The Patriots want out of this situation, and the price is almost laughably cheap. But, and this is the big but, this trade only happens if the Patriots first complete a separate deal with the Philadelphia Eagles for superstar wide receiver A.J. Brown. That's the domino. If the Eagles move A.J. Brown to New England, then Boutte becomes available, and the Raiders can swoop in with a mid-round pick and land a legitimate playmaker. Comment challenge time. Drop it below right now. Should the Raiders go after Boutte, or should they be swinging bigger and targeting A.J. Brown directly? Let's hear it. Now look at the Raiders' current wide receiver room honestly. You've got Trey Tucker, Jalen Nailor, Jack Beck, Devontae Thornton Jr., Malik Benson, and Derek Young. That group has potential, absolutely, but nobody is confusing them for a top 10 receiving core right now. Boutte's experience and his proven ability to find the end zone would give Mendoza an immediate reliable option that this group currently doesn't have. General Manager John Spytek addressed the roster situation directly during a recent interview and made it clear that he genuinely likes the group he has assembled. He compared roster building to fantasy football. Everyone wants 15 stars, but real sustainable building means keeping your feet on the ground and developing your own guys. He specifically praised Tucker's upside, Nailor's progression, and expressed strong organizational faith in Beck and Thornton as young pieces with real futures. But Spytek also confirmed the front office will stay alert throughout the summer market for the right developmental opportunities. Translation: if Boutte becomes available at that price, you better believe the Raiders are making that call. And speaking of opportunities and risks, ESPN's Adam Schefter just dropped a warning about the 2026 schedule that should genuinely terrify every single Raiders fan. Because if Fernando Mendoza steps on the field at the wrong moment, it could permanently damage his development. Here's why. The debate raging through Raider Nation right now is simple on the surface but complicated underneath. When exactly should Fernando Mendoza, the #1 overall pick in the 2026 draft, take over as the starting quarterback? With veteran Kirk Cousins already on the roster, the coaching staff has a real safety net. There's no reason to throw Mendoza to the wolves before he's ready. And according to Adam Schefter's most recent podcast breakdown, throwing him out there at the wrong time wouldn't just be risky, it could be catastrophic for his entire career trajectory. The problem is November. Schefter revealed that sources inside the Raiders organization were genuinely frustrated and unhappy with how the NFL schedule makers constructed their November slate. The Raiders will play 4 road games in a 5-week stretch during that month. 4 away games. For a rookie quarterback. That is not a learning environment. That is a survival test. Schefter's co-host Dan Szymborski broke down the schedule week by week, and honestly, reading this list feels like watching a horror movie. Week 8, road game against the New York Jets. Week 9, road game against the San Francisco 49ers. Week 10, finally a home game, but against the Seattle Seahawks, the reigning Super Bowl champions. Week 11, road game in Denver against the Broncos, playing at altitude. Week 12, road game against the Cleveland Browns and their terrifying defense in one of the most hostile environments in football. That is 5 weeks of absolute punishment. Schefter was firm in his opinion. Kirk Cousins needs to be the starter through that entire stretch. Handing a rookie quarterback that November gauntlet, especially without the energy and comfort of home crowds behind him, would be an irresponsible and potentially career-altering mistake. The smarter path, Schefter argued, is to keep Cousins in charge through at least December 1st. If Mendoza doesn't start from week 1 to naturally build his rhythm and toughness throughout the season, then the coaching staff should exercise patience and wait for the week 13 by week. After that rest, Mendoza would be introduced in December with a far more manageable schedule, including multiple home games against opponents like the Arizona Cardinals and Kansas City Chiefs, giving the young franchise quarterback a real chance to find his footing without the weight of the world crushing him immediately. The NFL schedule did the Raiders no favors this year. And now the front office, the coaching staff, and frankly the entire organization faces one of the most important decisions they will make all decade. Get this right, and Fernando Mendoza becomes the face of this franchise for the next 15 years. Get it wrong, and the damage could take years to undo. The Raiders' rebuild is real. The pieces are starting to come together. But the decisions being made right now, about Crosby's return, about adding weapons for Mendoza, and about exactly when to hand that rookie the keys, will define this entire era of Raiders football. Raider Nation, what do you think? Is this team closer than people give them credit for, or is there still a mountain left to climb? Drop your take in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single update as this story keeps developing. The off-season is just getting started, and trust me, the best news is still coming.